Hi, it's Nicole. Today's video is about Much Ado About Nothing by William Shakespeare. To be more precise, it's going to be about the Globe Theatre production of this play this summer. I shared in my last video, the April wrap-up, that I am going to watch this play in Globe Theatre at the end of this month. So because I'm the type of annoying person that can't go holiday anywhere without doing research on every single tourist attraction or planning ahead in general, I'm going to today do some digging into this specific production of Much Ado About Nothing. So part of my homework, part of my preparation to go and watch this play is to read the play itself. So I've done that already. So today I'm going to just do a summary of what the story is about. And secondly, let's look through the website of this production and see what we can find there. Maybe some information and some photos even. And then thirdly, I will share with you what kind of things I am going to specifically look out for and pay attention to when I'm actually watching the show on the day. First of all, let me just explain a little bit about the title. I listened to the BBC Radio Shakespeare production again, and the introduction immediately explained that nothing in the title at Elizabethan time was pronounced as noting. So Much Ado About Nothing is actually about noting and overhearing. That title just immediately made a lot more sense to me. Next, I need to tell you a little bit what this story is about. I know it's risky to give you a summary of a Shakespearean play. It's just very easy to lose you along the way, but I have to tell you what the story is roughly about to be able to move on to the things I want to talk about later on so we can be on the same page. So bear with me. There were two women who lived in the palace at Messina in Italy. One was called Hero and one was called Beatrice. They lived with Hero's father Leonato. Leonato was the governor of Messina. And Hero was the traditional beautiful, good, gentle and modest woman, and Beatrice had a quick wit and sharp tongue. Some man of high rank in the army arrived at Leonato's house on their return from a war that was just ended. So there were Don Pedro, the Prince of Aragon, his friends Claudio and Benedict. And Benedict also had a sharp tongue and a quick wit, just like Beatrice. This was not their first meeting. They already knew each other when the men were on their way to the war. Claudio fell in love with Hero immediately, and the wedding was planned in a few days' time. In order to kill time while they wait for the wedding day, Claudio, Leonato, Don Pedro and Hero decided to play matchmaking and to make Benedict and Beatrice fall in love with each other. So after some very comical overhearing scenes, as planned, Benedict and Beatrice fell in love with each other immediately. But Don Pedro the Prince had a brother, I think a half-brother called Don John. He wanted to ruin the wedding and the marriage because he hated Don Pedro and Claudio. So he went and spoke to them and said Hero was unfaithful, and if you don't believe me, go and watch her window tonight. After that, Don John paid a man to speak to a gentlewoman of Hero's at Hero's bedroom window. And obviously the prince and Claudio saw them and mistook them as Hero and her lover. So they were furious and they humiliated Hero on the wedding day in church. But obviously, as this is a comedy, everything was alright at the end. The plot was discovered and it was a good ending. I don't know what you think about that. Maybe it sounds like a terrible story to you. Reading summaries of Shakespeare's plays is just not a very good idea. I read last year summaries of 20 different plays in Mary and Charles Lamb's Tales from Shakespeare. These were written in prose for children, especially young girls, and just one of my desperate attempts to ease myself into Shakespeare. After each retelling, my reaction was almost always, these people were way too over the top and these stories were nothing like real life. It was a shortcut. It did help me to get familiar with the storylines a bit faster, but it did not help me to like the plays better at all. I think listening to BBC Radio Shakespeare production is probably the third best thing you can do. The best thing is obviously to watch a show yourself in person in the theatre. And the second best thing, I guess, is to watch a TV production or a film adaptation of some sorts. And listening to a radio production, I guess, is the third best choice, because you can't see anything. There's no beautiful costume or anything like that. You just have to imagine. But the radio production does have really good voice actors, have really good music, sound design, and I'm really curious how they filmed it or how they recorded it. Was it actually a full production and they just recorded the sound, or was it just voice acting? But whatever it was very, very good. It was very helpful and I enjoyed it a lot, especially with David Tennant being Benedict. I didn't recognize his voice when I was listening to it. I didn't realize who the voice actor was until I was doing research for this video. It was David Tennant. I didn't know his name, but I recognize him as Doctor Who, and I also watched Around the World in 80 Days, and he was the main character in that TV show as well. So yeah, pleasant surprise. I enjoyed the radio production a lot. So I listened to the BBC Radio Shakespeare production. At the same time, I read this book. So I bought this edition for Much Ado About Nothing because it was edited by Jonathan Bate. And Jonathan Bate is my new favorite author. The article at the back introduces a series of Royal Shakespeare Company's productions over the years. And it showed me what has happened before and what kind of possibilities and potential Shakespeare gives to theatre interpretations and productions is fascinating. There has been a whole range of settings in terms of time periods and geographic locations. There were plays set in Elizabethan time, Victorian time, 1920s, 30s, 40s, everything, all sorts. It's really interesting. I'll show you a few examples that stood out to me when I read this. So first of all, a 1960s production was set in early 19th century Italy. So note the war element in this play. It was in the background. It didn't play a main role in the story, but it gives a context to the story, which is kind of important, and different directors used it differently. So for this one, the 1961 production, it was set in early 19th century Italy, and that was the Napoleonic War. So basically the same era as Jane Austen, and then you can imagine the costumes and what they were like. The next interesting one is the 1976 production set in late 19th century British India. That one featured Judi Dench. And the next one is the 2002 production. That one was set in 1930s fascist Sicily. And the 2006 production was set in early 1950s Catholic Cuba. I thought it was superb. There is a specific interview with the directors of that the Cuban setting production at the end of this book. And the reasoning behind it, how she decided to set the play in Cuba. All the reasoning behind is fascinating. It's so well thought through and creative. It's just a whole different world that I want to explore. There are some more recent productions as well. So there's a 2012 production set in India, a 2014 production set in an English country house just after the First World War. And this year, 2022, earlier this year, there was a futuristic setting I didn't know at all. Most of these were productions in Royal Shakespeare Theatre in Stratford-upon-Avon. I am at this point very confused about the relationship between Royal Shakespeare Company and the Globe Theatre and the Royal Shakespeare Theatre. If you know where I can read more about it, or if you know and would like to explain for me, please leave a comment. I'm really confused why, for example, in this book, he only talks about all the productions in RST in Stratford-upon-Avon and nothing about the Globe Theatre, where I thought the Globe Theatre is the more prominent theatre. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I probably subconsciously know this, just haven't put it in words explicitly. After searching through all of these plays over the years, seeing some black and white pictures, some more recent pictures, it really clarified and just explained what's lacking when you're only reading the Shakespeare play or listening to a Shakespeare play. You can't see anything the important. Well, a lot of the story is told by, I guess, the actor's body language, the amazing costume designs, amazing set designs. All of this is missing if you can't watch the show with your own eyes. I guess that's obvious, but I just want to state it explicitly to maybe convince myself that the £50 I paid for the ticket is well worth it. With all of these shows in mind, with all of these previous productions in mind, I really want to know what our production is going to look like. So let's do some research together and look through their website and see what we can find. Okay, I'm going to search Much Ado About Nothing in Globe Theatre now. So we can see what Google gives is that the Globe is transformed into a riotous garden party for a new production of Much Ado About Nothing, directed by Lucy Bailey. So this profile image, I guess, is the garden party. The shininess of these tinsels and balloons looks really modern to me. But these trousers and these socks and shoes, maybe 1980s disco? I'm not quite sure. If you can spot the era of the costumes, leave me a comment. I'm not quite sure what kind of era is this outfit. Let's keep going. See the Globe Theatre fills with joyous life for our absurdly funny, smart and stylish production of Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. Alright, okay. April 1945, Northern Italy. Following years of war, Leonata and her daughters reopened their battle-scarred palazzo for a celebration to welcome the partisan soldiers back from recent hard-fought victories. A few things I noticed immediately. Leonata. I presume that's the female version of Leonato, the father of Hero. It looked like we have got a mother here instead of father. And it says Leonata and her daughters. It looked like Beatrice is not the niece anymore. She's not an orphan anymore. And she's not a poor relative of this family. She's now a daughter. I think that must make a big difference, but we will see. And the setting, April 1945, Northern Italy. I haven't checked the month exactly, but 1945, that's Second World War, the end of Second World War, and it's set in northern Italy. And partisan soldiers, I had to Google this. Partisan is a member of an armed group formed to fight secretly against an occupying force, in particular one operating in German-occupied Yugoslavia, Italy, and parts of Eastern Europe in the Second World War. So we know this man are guerrilla war fighters, so they are partisan soldiers. And it says young lovers Hero and Claudio and proud singletons Beatrice and Benedict have their limits tested like never before in a wild mix of games, pranks and mischievous plots. So far I'm loving it. I'm really happy about the setting. You know, all of the previous productions and all the previous settings we looked through, I'm sure they were all great in their own ways, but for my first show, I really wanted something that's slightly closer to the original. Obviously, I don't expect Elizabethan costumes set in Italy, but I am very glad it is set in Italy. When I first saw that profile photo, I was really worried it was going to be set in the 21st century. There's nothing wrong with plays set in 21st century. I just wanted Shakespeare to feel a bit different to my life now. I wanted the setting to be slightly more distant from here and now. And even if we go with that 1980s disco image, I still think that's a bit too close to everyday life. So I'm really happy that it's going to be set in the Second World War time in Italy. I like Second World War time period. I think that's a very moving period of history. So yeah, so far I'm very, very happy. Okay, let's keep going. So we will skip the reviews, and here's a video. That's it. It's 7 seconds and it gives away next to nothing apart from that pink cupcake and some blue eye makeup. Okay, next we're going to look at some photos. How exciting, look at that. That's more like it. Let's look at them one by one. So this, I presume, is the party scene. Interesting masks, like different kind of animals' heads. This is our Antonia and Leonata. So originally, obviously, it was Leonato and Antonio. Leonata was Hero's father and Antonio was Hero's uncle. So obviously they made the father and uncle into mother and aunt. And you see there are quite a few musicians in the background. Here's our couple, Beatrice and Benedict. I have been very interested in their age because apparently, according to this book, there were at least three very successful productions that had middle-aged couples. So they had middle-aged Beatrice and Benedict. I thought that's very interesting how they made that decision. So I've been looking forward to finding out what our Beatrice and Benedict is going to look like, what age they are going to be in. But look like they are not quite yet middle-aged, but they are not teenagers either. So hopefully we see another picture of our Benedict with a bit more face in the photo. Our good old Dogberry. Do their hats look a bit Napoleonic to you? Do 1940s policemen wear uniform like this? I'm not sure, maybe in Italy they do. And I love that bike. Look at that fabulous bike. And next, this is Conrad and Borachio. They are Don John's bad friends. They look a bit like farmers, don't they? They look not like evil villains to me, just because of the way they dressed. They look a bit like comical fools. Just look at the size of their trousers. Why are their trousers so wide and big? That's Hero playing voice in her hand. She has a towel. And is that a bowling ball? That's our Benedict. And we can see his face this time. I love how comfortable he looks in his costumes. It just looks like that's his shirt. And these are Benedict on the left, Don Pedro in the middle, and Claudio on the right. These are our partisan soldiers. Okay, so this is Hero and Margaret. Hero is in a different outfit. So Margaret, in the play itself, she was Hero's gentlewoman, so not like servant, but she would assist her in a lot of things. So I guess in this setting, maybe they're just friends. And you can see there's a musician in the background again. This is Beatrice in her party dress. I love that dress. Look at the fabric, how thick and flowy at the same time the fabric is. I love the collar, that straight collar. And this is Beatrice again in her everyday outfit, I guess. And there's a wounded soldier in the background, and again more musicians in the background. That's Conrad and Don John. Don John look like a proper villain, isn't it? That's Borachio again. And this is the whole party. So this is the scene where Benedict is eavesdropping on Don Pedro, Claudio and Leonato. They were obviously playing along. They were trying to spread false information that Beatrice actually loves him, and they want him to overhear it and believe it and then fall in love with Beatrice. So we can now see that's how they're going to do that scene. So he's going to just hide behind that pillar. I have been wondering how that's going to look like in one of the earlier productions. Beatrice and Benedict were hidden in a swimming pool apparently. I'm very impressed about how they did that. I hope there was no water in the swimming pool, otherwise the actors had to make quite a lot of sacrifice. So that's all of the pictures. So lastly, I would like to tell you a few things that I will look out for specifically and pay attention to on the day when I watch the show. So first of all, these two couples of ours, I'm interested in the dynamics of their interaction. Obviously, Beatrice and Benedict talk way too much. I want to see how that work out on stage, especially when there's a crowd. Claudio and Hero, they are the complete opposite. They don't talk enough, I think. They're just too quiet. Even when they first declared love for each other, they were a bit tongue-tied and they were not saying very much. So very interesting to see their relationship, how they love each other without speaking, if you know what I mean. Second thing is, we just saw a picture of Benedict's eavesdropping scene. There is a very similar scene where Beatrice has to eavesdrop on Hero and Margaret. So I wonder what this second eavesdropping scene is going to look like, because I think it's difficult to make people laugh when they've seen something very similar already. So when they see it the second time, will people still laugh? Beatrice changed from completely cold and disdain to love for Benedict. What would that look like in real life? She was so determined that she will stay single, she would not love anybody, she would not marry. How did that change look like? How will the actor make it look natural and convincing? That's another thing. There's clearly a history between Beatrice and Benedict. As we seen already, this was not the first time they met each other. They've already met each other, and a lot of the interpretation said that they actually loved each other before, but the relationship didn't work out, so now they hated each other. I really want to see how this production, or the director, how she makes use of that. Obviously, I'm interested in the wedding scene, how Claudio accused Hero falsely without realizing, and all the drama. Basically, I think that's one of the most dramatic scenes in this play. And another very difficult scene to play is the kill Claudio scene. So Beatrice asks Benedict to kill Claudio and to revenge for her cousin Hero. They just declared love for each other, and now they have to put that relationship, that commitment into test. Will Benedict stand with his friends, stand with Claudio and accuse Hero, or will Benedict stand with Beatrice and fight for her friend Hero against his friend Claudio? So will he value his friendship more or his love for Beatrice more? I think that's a very intense moment in the play as well, definitely. I partly just think Claudio is a simpleton, especially after seeing the pictures. He doesn't look like a villain who intentionally, maliciously accused Hero. I think he genuinely believes Hero was unfaithful and she was meeting another man before their wedding day. So his fury, his anger and grief was understandable, and I want to see how he repent and ask for forgiveness. I said he was a simpleton because Don John tried to ruin this marriage right from the beginning, right? So Don John came to him saying, my brother wanted Hero for himself. And Claudio believed Don John immediately without checking at all. And then later on, the same Don John said to him, saying, your Hero was unfaithful, she was meeting with another man. He believed him again without further investigation. I think he's just a bit silly, a bit foolish, a bit simple. But I don't think he was a bad man. Like, essentially, I believe I give him a second chance. But anyway, I want to see how he asked for forgiveness and how he reconciled with Hero at the end. As we see in the pictures, there are a lot of musicians around. I wonder what the music is going to be like. Italian music, maybe. Will they play it throughout? Because almost in every single photo, there were musicians in the background, wasn't there? I'm just curious what kind of role the music is going to play. Right, so that just makes me even more excited, make me look forward to the show even more. I think there's about 20 days to come, 20 days to wait before I'm going down to London and watch the show. I will definitely let you know how it goes, if I enjoyed it, if I find the answer for all my questions. If you have watched any of the previous Much Ado About Nothing productions in any theatres, in any cities, let me know what you think. I would love to know your opinion. I would love to watch many different productions of the same play in the future if I got the chance, but I guess before I am able to do that, the better thing is to hear your opinion, hear your comments and verdicts on the play. So I think that's plenty for today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next one.